Hi, fellow crafters, and welcome to my home and to my channel. This is a glimpse of one of the projects we're going to make today. It's my favorite project ever. I made it using some surprising elements. Here is another project we're going to make today, focusing on the true meaning of Christmas, celebrating our Savior, Jesus Christ. I think you'll be inspired by this Christmas in July third edition on my channel. It's a lot of fun. My name is Lisa and welcome. For this first project, we're going to use this Nativity inspired napkin. I bought it in a package on Amazon. I'm just cutting one of the 4 squares. The other items you're going to use for this project are all from the Dollar Tree. The first step is to separate the plies. This is a 3-ply napkin, so you'll need to remove the 2 back plies, leaving only that translucent top layer of the design. I removed first the back, and then I had to go back and remove that second ply. So now you can see it's very sheer. We're going to take this, and as many of you have already seen me do, I love to use this water pen to create a feathered or deckled edge around the image that I'm using to decoupage. This water pen has a cartridge which is easily filled with tap water. You could also use a paintbrush dipped in water, but the idea is to create a water line so it weakens the napkin, enabling you to tear away the excess paper and to create that feathering which allows it to blend more seamlessly into the background. This is the portion of the image that we're going to use. I want to apply this to canvas to create a look of a painted image. So first, I'm going to put the image upside down on a plastic bag and spray it, as you saw, with water. Now, I am just pulling out the wrinkles very gently. That water causes it to wrinkle, but we can control the removal of those wrinkles so that when we apply it to the wet Mod Podge, it'll be smooth. I purchased this framed canvas for $1.25 from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just using this blade to trim out that piece of canvas. It's easier than trying to remove all the staples. I'm doing this in order to have a piece that I can decoupage that napkin image onto. So here I am just using one of the Dollar Tree sponge brushes along with the Dollar Tree small bottle of Mod Podge to apply some Mod Podge going in both directions to a portion of that canvas. Once I have a sufficient amount of Mod Podge applied, I'm going to flip that wet image of the Nativity over onto that surface. This is an easy way of decoupaging a very thin napkin onto the surface of canvas. Now I'm just taking a tissue and I'm smoothing it from the inside outward. It works really well to remove any final little wrinkles or air bubbles, and you'll see the design will be as though it's been painted onto that canvas, even taking on the texture of the canvas. It's really a beautiful technique and works so well. I think you could apply this in so many ways. Now I'm just using my heat gun to dry it a little bit, and then we'll set it aside, and while it's drying, we're going to prepare our next item. This is also from Dollar Tree. It's one of the adhesive wall tiles, and it's going to provide a beautiful frame for our canvas nativity. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm using one of the cutting mats from Dollar Tree to protect my counter underneath, and I'm using the sharp blade to outline that interior portion of this tile. This is going to create an opening through which our canvas will be visible. It's very easy to cut along the inside of that outline there. And as you can see now, I'm just pulling it out. That actually makes a nice little ornament possibility. The next step is to paint the frame, and I'm using this Americana Decor in the color Lace. It's a soft color, and it does bring out some of the warmth of that nativity image. Now, depending on what napkin you choose, you could choose a different color that complements your image, but I thought this works really well. These wall tiles are so easily painted with a nice quality paint. Here I'm using a pouncer brush. It'll create a very nice, almost suede texture against that tile. 2 coats are going to be necessary. So here I'm just applying the first coat, and then I'm going to allow that to dry before applying the second. Now that the surface is dried, I'm adding more of the paint. This pouncing technique really works well, and you want to use sufficient pressure to get that paint down into all of those crevices, but you will see that the finish on it is very nicely textured in terms of a suede look. And you can see how beautifully this is turning out as that second layer is applied. It is creating a more opaque finished effect. Now the next step I'm doing here is just using my heat gun to dry it. You can set it aside and let it naturally air dry, but I am trying to hasten the drying process because I'm eager to show you this next step. And after it dries, you can always add a little more paint if you see any little spots where it needs some touch-up. And you can see that's what I'm doing here, just touching up a few more spots. Now that it's thoroughly dry, I'm going to take this heart shape that I bought at Dollar Tree. Now you could use any shape that you like, but because Jesus is the heart of the Christmas season, I thought the heart would be a beautiful symbol to use. They will have Christmas trees available. You could use circles or any shape that you like. This technique will work on any of them. Now look how beautiful this looks. I am just so pleased with the result. It almost looks like lace. The next step is just to peel away that backing. Now the adhesive part of this wall tile was on the outer border. So by cutting away that border, there is no adhesion there. So we're going to instead use some hot glue to adhere it onto this wooden heart form. We also need to adhere this canvas to the back of the heart. So you want to just position your image so that it will look nice as it's framed. After attaching the canvas, I'm putting the overlay on top of the wooden heart and just using hot glue right along that outer edge of the heart, just so that it'll make a nice tight seal. After the overlay is adhered to that wooden heart, we're going to go ahead and decorate. I had these stickers from Dollar Tree. They came in a package, and one of them says cherish. I thought about putting the star above the nativity, but I decided the word cherish would have special meaning. And then I used some of those pieces of trim on either side of the image. The next embellishment is to use some of the gold rub and buff, and you'll want to practice maybe on that extra piece of tile that you cut away, because the technique is important. You want to make sure that the brush is almost dry. You want the paint to look as though it's literally just been buffed on there rather than painted heavily. So less is more. You want to just bring out those highlights of the contours. The gold rub and buff looks really pretty when applied more heavily, just on the trim and around that word cherish. But everywhere else, I did use a very dry brush technique, and I think it turned out really well. Any mistakes, though, are so easily fixed. If you do happen to get a little extra gold somewhere, all you have to do is let it dry and then use your original paint to just go over that spot and cover it up and then reapply your gold. And isn't it just beautiful? It draws you right in to the spirit of that holy night. And now I want to introduce you to my woodland friend. This was actually made with a napkin and a piece of found wood. On a walk the other day after a storm, this was lying in the road, freshly broken from a tree nearby. I loved the grain and the texture of it, so I brought it home. I poured some boiling water over it just to make sure it was thoroughly clean, and then I baked it in a 200-degree oven for 3 hours. I monitored that very closely. Now, as you see, I'm putting a layer of polyvine wood varnish over the entire surface. That brings out the beauty of the grain and also will help to seal that wood. But first, do remember, if you do collect wood, you do need to make sure that it's bug-free and clean, and you want to be sure that it's thoroughly dry before you apply the coat of wood varnish. So once I get that coat fully applied, I'm going to let that cure for about 24 hours. You can see I'm using a paintbrush to apply the wood varnish. It does go into all the crevices very nicely. And now you can see, although still wet, it does have a beautiful finish. Once it's thoroughly dried, I'm going to apply some Mod Podge, as you'll see me doing, right up in that upper surface where we're going to introduce our little woodland friend. Natural elements are always the most beautiful. I'm just showing you how every angle of this is so beautiful. The layers, the textures, the grain, the colors. I'm really excited about this project. I purchased this little raccoon napkin, and I cut it out with what's called a fussy cut, meaning that I went around all the edges and details very carefully. I'm now separating the plies. Again, it's a 3-ply napkin, so I do need to remove all 3 plies, leaving only that top almost translucent layer. So now look at that sweet little face. Now, because I want the ears to stand up, they're going to have some rigidity to them, some sturdiness. So I found this piece of scrapbook paper in basically the same color as the fur on those ears. And you notice it even has some texture mimicking the look of fur. So I'm outlining each of the ears against that paper, and then I'm going to cut them out. And as you see, I'm using some school glue, some glue stick, just to adhere them to the back portion of the napkin ear. And that will help those ears to stand up nicely. He really gets cuter all the time. This is how it looks so far on the back side. Now the next step is to take our dry piece of wood that's been varnished, and I'm going to apply some Mod Podge in that curvature. This is the spot where our little forest friend will make his appearance. I'm just applying it nice and evenly across that entire curved surface, and then I'm also going down into that crevice. Now I'm taking the napkin, as you see, and I'm laying it very carefully into that spot. This is tricky. You'll want to work it so that you do it as smoothly as possible and tuck part of that face down into that crevice. Now, I realize finding the same piece of wood is nearly impossible, but this is just something that I hope will inspire you to look at natural elements in a new way and to seek creative ways to use them in projects. Finding this wood really opened my eyes to a new world of ways of using natural elements. Tonight, as I walk, I'm going to be looking for new pieces of wood, and I hope to share more with you. Now, as projects often do, this evolved. I didn't like the way it looked with just the one thin layer, so I tore off the ears. I'm adding Mod Podge to the front again, and I'm going to add a second layer. I cut out another image, and this time I added more napkin to the back of those ears, as well as some of the sturdy scrapbook paper, so they have a much sturdier feel. And now I'm just going to overlay this, and the result is so much more beautiful. The textures are fantastic. Some of the wood grain forces its way through just enough to create added texture. He has found a home here. and I hope he brings a smile to your face. Please do let me know in the comments below if you have ideas of ways to use natural wood elements in creative ways. And now on to our next little project. This is quick and uses a Dollar Tree gnome. He's summer inspired, and I transformed him into a Santa Claus, and I'll show you just how easy that is to do. I'm using also this little gift bag from Dollar Tree for the purpose of having the white fur. And this is just a little sack that I had from a jewelry store for his Santa sack. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is using these apple barrel paints in the color red apple and black. I'm going to first paint the first coat onto his trousers, shirt, and suspenders. Now, it's very transparent until you dry it and apply that second layer. Once you do that, you'll see that it makes a very nice opaque coating to give him that look of a Santa suit. Once I've gotten that second layer nicely applied, I'm going to highlight some of the accents, including the suspenders and back pockets in that jet black color. The design and contours are there, so it's very easy just to paint over those areas. See here, I'm just coloring in the back pocket, and I'll do the second pocket the same way, and then I'm going to go over those suspenders using the jet black as well. This apple barrel paint works really well, and 2 coats give it a nice opaque finish. So here I am just doing the crisscross design of the suspenders, and then we're going to have the fun of adding some Santa fur to his pant legs and around the brim of his hat. I cut some of the strips of that white faux fur off of that little gift bag, and now I'm just using some glue to attach it right along the bottom there. Cutting off that extra piece, it fits around there perfectly. I added the faux fur to that other pants leg as well, and now instead of him holding a little shovel, I want him to hold this snow-dusted Christmas tree. So I'm just going to use a line of hot glue to attach the tree to his hand. Next, I want to add some more faux fur to his hat. So we're going to go ahead and cut another strip of it, and then just use a line of glue to attach it right along that lower portion of his hat. That way that fur will frame the top of his forehead. And with each embellishment, you can see the summer-inspired gnome being transformed into Jolly Old St. Nick. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was put a pom-pom on the end of his hat. So I took some cotton and just rolled it in my palm to make a little pom-pom shaped ball. And we're going to just use another drop of glue to attach that there. And then he's complete. Now, this Christmas-inspired flower pot hugger is ready to decorate either your Christmas cactus or your poinsettia plant. Wherever you decide to put him, I think he'll bring a smile to your face. Now, as I show you some of my other projects, these can be found on my channel, on my Christmas playlist. These are images of different projects I've done last Christmas, and I hope they also inspire you. I made this snowman using the carvable foam pumpkins that are now available at the Dollar Tree. This gingerbread house was made with several of the doll houses, and here's our Christmas tree. This Santa I decorated with religious symbols, and this snowman was also made using Dollar Tree items. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. Take care, and God bless.